If you went grocery shopping this week and noticed a few empty spots on the shelves, you are not imagining things. Something is happening across American supermarkets right now, and most people have no idea how serious it is getting. I am not talking about one or two items being temporarily out of stock. I am talking about a pattern, a slow, steady disappearing act that is hitting products you and I buy every single week. I started noticing it myself about 2 months ago. I went to my usual store, reached for something I have bought 100 times, and it just was not there. Not sold out with a tag. Gone. No tag. No shelf space. Like it never existed. And when I started looking into why, what I found honestly unsettled me. Today I am walking you through 15 grocery items that are getting harder and harder to find in 2026. Some of these are disappearing because of supply chain problems. Some because companies quietly decided they are not profitable enough to keep making. And some because of forces most shoppers never even think about. When we get to number 11, I need you to pay close attention, because that one is going to shock you. It shocked me when I confirmed it. Before we get into this list, do me a favor. If you get value from this kind of content, hit that subscribe button right now. I put these videos together so you can stay ahead of the curve. Most people will not realize these items are vanishing until they desperately need them and cannot find them anywhere. You are here early. That matters. Let us get into it. Item number 1, canned coconut milk. This one caught me completely off guard. I use canned coconut milk for curries, for soups, sometimes just for coffee creamer when I want something different. A few months ago, I noticed my store went from carrying 4 or 5 brands down to 1. Then that one started going in and out of stock. Here is what is happening. Southeast Asia, which produces the vast majority of the world's coconut supply, has been dealing with aging coconut palm trees for years. These trees take 7 to 10 years to become productive, and replanting efforts have not kept up with demand. On top of that, labor shortages in the Philippines and Indonesia have made harvesting more expensive and less consistent. Global demand for coconut-based products has exploded because of the plant-based food movement, so you have more people wanting coconut milk, coconut cream, coconut oil, and coconut water, all at the same time the supply is shrinking. I spoke to someone who manages inventory for a mid-size grocery chain, and they told me coconut products are one of the hardest categories to keep reliably stocked right now. They said their wholesale costs went up nearly 20% in the last year alone, and some suppliers are simply not fulfilling full orders anymore. I looked at prices myself at 3 different stores last month. The cheapest can of coconut milk I found was $1.89. A year ago, I was paying $1.29 for the same brand. That is a significant jump. If you use canned coconut milk regularly, now is the time to stock up. It has a long shelf life, usually 2 to 3 years. Buy an extra case next time you see it. Store it in a cool, dry place, and you are set. Do not wait until your store stops carrying it altogether. This is one of those items where by the time most people notice, the price will have doubled. Item number 2, olive oil. You have probably already felt this one in your wallet, but it is getting worse. Much worse. Olive oil has been in a supply crisis for over 2 years now, and 2026 is not bringing relief. Spain produces nearly half of the world's olive oil. Severe droughts across southern Europe in 2023, 2024, and again in 2025 devastated harvests. We are talking about production drops of 30 to 50% in some regions. Italy and Greece have had similar problems. The olive trees are stressed, yields are down, and recovery takes years because olive trees are not annual crops. You cannot just replant and get oil next season. Industry data shows that global olive oil reserves are at historic lows. Prices at retail have more than doubled compared to 3 years ago. A bottle of extra virgin olive oil that cost $6 or $7 in 2022 is now routinely $14 to $18. Some premium brands have crossed $25 for a standard bottle. I noticed this myself when I went to grab my usual brand at Walmart a few weeks ago. The shelf had 3 bottles left, and the price tag made me do a double take. I checked Costco the next day. Their Kirkland brand was still available, but the price had gone up again, and there was a limit of 2 per customer. Here is what I want you to do. If you cook with olive oil regularly, buy what you can afford right now. Store it in a dark, cool cabinet away from heat. It keeps well for about 18 to 24 months unopened. Also consider having a backup oil for everyday cooking. Avocado oil and grapeseed oil are solid alternatives for high-heat cooking, and they are still reasonably priced. Do not assume this will correct itself by next year. The trees need time. The climate is not cooperating. This shortage has legs. Item number 3. Sriracha and specialty hot sauces. Remember the great sriracha shortage of 2023? A lot of people thought that was over. It is not. Not really. Haiphong Foods, the company behind the iconic Rooster bottle, has been struggling with pepper supply issues since 2022. Their primary pepper supplier in California faced crop failures, and the company has had ongoing disputes with growers. Production has been inconsistent ever since. You might find sriracha on the shelf one week and then not see it again for a month. But it is not just sriracha. Specialty hot sauces across the board are becoming harder to source. Many small batch hot sauce makers rely on specific pepper varieties that are climate sensitive. Habaneros, ghost peppers, and certain chili varieties have seen reduced yields in key growing regions. Shipping costs for importing peppers from Central America and Asia have also gone up. I checked my local grocery store's hot sauce aisle last week. It used to be a full section, maybe 30 or 40 different bottles. Now it is noticeably thinner. Several brands I used to see regularly are just gone. Not moved. Gone. When I looked this up online, I found forums full of people saying the same thing. Their favorite hot sauces are either unavailable or the prices have jumped significantly. If you have a hot sauce you love, do not take it for granted. Buy an extra bottle or two when you find it. Hot sauce keeps for a very long time, especially vinegar-based varieties. Some can last years in the pantry. And if you want to get creative, making your own basic hot sauce at home is surprisingly simple and cheap. This is about protecting the flavors you enjoy before they quietly vanish from the shelf. Item number 4. Canned wild-caught salmon. This one is personal for me. I eat canned salmon at least twice a week. It is affordable protein, it is healthy, and it is easy to keep on hand. But finding good canned wild-caught salmon has become a real challenge. Pacific salmon runs have been declining for years. Alaska, which supplies a huge portion of the canned salmon market, has seen some of its worst returns in recent memory for certain species. Sockeye and pink salmon numbers have been unpredictable, and fishery managers have had to restrict catches to protect future populations. That means less fish going to canneries. At the same time, demand for canned seafood has been growing. People discovered it during the pandemic as a pantry staple, and it never went back down. So you have less supply and more demand, which is the exact recipe for scarcity and price increases. I was at Costco last month looking for their wild-caught sockeye salmon cans. The shelf was empty. Not low. Empty. I asked an employee and they said they had not received a shipment in weeks. When I checked Amazon, the same product was available from third-party sellers at nearly double the normal price. If you see canned wild-caught salmon at a reasonable price, grab it. It lasts 3 to 5 years on the shelf. Stock your pantry now. If wild-caught becomes too expensive or too hard to find, canned sardines and canned mackerel are excellent alternatives with similar nutritional profiles, and they are still widely available and affordable. Do not sleep on this one. The ocean does not care about our grocery lists. Item number 5. Certain breakfast cereals. This one might seem strange at first, but hear me out. Have you noticed that your cereal aisle looks a little different lately? Fewer options? Smaller boxes? That is not an accident. Major cereal companies like General Mills, Kellogg's, and Post have been quietly discontinuing underperforming varieties for the past 2 years. This is a strategy called SKU rationalization. Basically, they look at which products sell the most and cut everything else to save on production and logistics costs. The result is that niche cereals, regional favorites, and less popular flavors are disappearing. On top of that, the cost of grains, sugar, and packaging has stayed elevated. Companies are choosing to focus on their top sellers and let everything else fade away. If your favorite cereal is not a top 10 seller for its brand, it might already be on the chopping block. I noticed this when I went looking for a specific variety I have eaten since I was a kid. It was not on the shelf. I checked online. Discontinued. No announcement. No farewell. Just gone. I looked into it further and found that dozens of cereal varieties have been quietly dropped in the past 18 months alone. Some of them had loyal followings. It did not matter. If there is a cereal you love that is not one of the big mainstream flavors, check if it is still being produced. If it is, consider buying a few extra boxes. Cereal keeps for months past its date if stored properly in a cool, dry place. And honestly, start exploring alternatives. Store-brand cereals and bulk granola options at places like Aldi and Costco are often better value anyway. The cereal aisle you grew up with is shrinking, and it is not coming back. Item number 6, cream cheese. This one keeps cycling in and out of shortage, and most people do not understand why. Cream cheese seems like it should be simple. Milk, cream, a little processing. But the reality is more complicated. Cream cheese production is concentrated among just a few major manufacturers. When any one of them has a disruption, whether it is a plant issue, a labor problem, or a raw material shortage, the entire market feels it. We saw this play out dramatically a few years ago, and the vulnerability has not been fixed. Dairy supply in general has been under pressure. Smaller dairy farms continue to close across the Midwest and Northeast. Feed costs remain high, and cream cheese specifically requires a type of milk processing that not every dairy facility can handle, which creates bottlenecks. I was making cheesecake for a family gathering last month and went to 3 stores before I found enough cream cheese. 3 stores for cream cheese. That should not happen, but it did. Retail data from early 2026 shows that cream cheese prices are up roughly 15% year over year, and availability remains inconsistent in many regions. If you bake regularly or use cream cheese often, keep an extra package or 2 in your freezer. Yes, you can freeze cream cheese. The texture changes slightly, making it a little more crumbly, but it works perfectly fine for baking and cooking. Thaw it in the fridge overnight and you are good to go. Do not get caught the week before Thanksgiving with no cream cheese in sight. Plan ahead. Item number 7, mustard. This is one that most people are completely unaware of, and it has been building for a while. Mustard, particularly Dijon and any mustard made with brown or black mustard seeds, has been in a quiet crisis. Canada produces about 80% of the world's mustard seed supply. In recent years, drought conditions in the Canadian prairies have severely impacted mustard seed harvests. We are talking about production drops of 50% or more in some years. France, which is the home of Dijon mustard, actually grows very few of its own mustard seeds. They import almost all of them from Canada. So when Canadian crops fail, Dijon mustard production falls off a cliff. Prices for mustard seeds on the commodity market have been at record levels. That cost gets passed directly to consumers. A jar of Dijon mustard that cost $3 a couple of years ago is now $5 or $6 in many stores, and some specialty brands have become genuinely hard to find. I went through my local store's condiment section and counted the mustard options. There were noticeably fewer than I remembered. The generic yellow mustard was still there, but the specialty mustards were thin. Some shelf spots had been filled in with other products, which is a classic sign that the store does not expect those items back anytime soon. If you are a mustard lover, stock up on your preferred varieties now. Mustard has an excellent shelf life, often 2 years or more for unopened jars. And if you really want to be prepared, buying whole mustard seeds in bulk and making your own is surprisingly easy and incredibly cheap. Most people will not notice this shortage until they reach for the mustard, and it is not there. You will already have yours. Item number 8, canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes are a kitchen essential. Sauces, soups, stews, chili. Almost every home cook relies on them, and they are getting harder to find at the prices we are used to. California produces the vast majority of processing tomatoes in the United States. Water allocation issues in the Central Valley have been ongoing for years, and they are not improving. Farmers are being forced to reduce acreage. Some are switching to higher value crops that use less water. The result is fewer tomatoes going to canneries. Italy, the other major source of canned tomatoes for the American market, has faced its own challenges with extreme heat waves and water shortages in southern growing regions. Global supply of canned tomatoes is tighter than it has been in over a decade. I checked prices at my store last week. A 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes that I used to buy for $1.49 is now $2.29. That might not sound like a lot, but if you cook regularly, those increases add up fast across your entire cart. When I looked at Costco, their bulk canned tomato options were still available, but the per-can price had crept up noticeably, and some organic varieties were completely out of stock. Here is what I recommend. Canned tomatoes last 2 to 5 years on the shelf. They are one of the best items to stockpile because they are versatile, nutritious, and shelf-stable. Next time you see a sale, buy a case. If your store has a flat or a bulk option, take advantage of it. You will not regret having extra canned tomatoes in your pantry. This is a staple that every household should have in reserve, especially right now. Item number 9. Egg supply volatility. I know what you are thinking. Eggs again? Yes, because the situation has not stabilized, and it keeps getting worse in waves. Avian influenza has been cycling through poultry flocks in the United States since 2022, and 2025 into 2026 has seen new outbreaks that have resulted in millions of birds being culled. Every time a major egg-producing facility is hit, supply drops and prices spike. Then things calm down for a few months, and people think it is over. Then it happens again. The fundamental problem is that our egg supply is extremely concentrated. A small number of very large producers control the majority of the market. When even one of those operations gets hit by avian flu, the ripple effects are enormous, and rebuilding a flock takes time. You cannot rush biology. I have been tracking egg prices at my local stores for the past 6 months. They swing wildly. 1 week eggs are $3 a dozen. 2 weeks later they are $5.50. Then back down. Then up again. It is unpredictable, and for families on a tight budget, that unpredictability is a real problem. When you see eggs at a reasonable price, buy what you can use. If you want to go a step further, learn how to freeze eggs. You crack them into an ice cube tray, freeze them, then transfer to a freezer bag. They work great for baking and scrambles later on. You can also consider powdered eggs as a backup for baking. They are shelf-stable and actually work better than most people expect. Do not assume the egg situation is resolved. It is not. It is a recurring disruption, and it will keep catching people off guard. Item number 10. Cooking oils beyond olive oil. We already talked about olive oil, but the pressure is spreading to other cooking oils too, and this is something almost nobody is discussing. Sunflower oil supply has been disrupted since the conflict in Ukraine began, and it has never fully recovered. Ukraine and Russia together produced a massive share of the world's sunflower oil, and that supply chain remains fractured. Canola oil prices have been elevated due to the same Canadian drought conditions affecting mustard seeds. Even vegetable oil blends have seen steady price increases because soybean costs have risen. Coconut oil, as we discussed, is under pressure from the same supply issues hitting coconut milk. Palm oil, which is in countless processed foods, faces ongoing sustainability restrictions and import challenges. I went through my pantry last month and realized that every single cooking oil I own costs more than it did a year ago. Every one. That is not normal. That is a systemic shift in the cost of fats and oils, and it affects everything from home cooking to the price of restaurant food and packaged snacks. When I checked prices at Walmart and compared them to my receipts from last year, the average increase across cooking oils was about 18 to 22%. That is substantial. My advice is to diversify your oil supply. Do not rely on just one type. Keep olive oil for finishing and salads. Use avocado oil or refined coconut oil for high-heat cooking. And watch for sales on canola and vegetable oil to keep a backup supply. Buy the larger containers when the price is right because oil keeps well for months in a cool, dark cabinet. Cooking oil is something you use every single day. Protect your supply. Item number 11. Baby formula specialty varieties. I told you to pay attention to this one, and here is why. While the headline baby formula crisis from a couple of years ago technically eased, the reality on the ground is more complicated than anyone is admitting. Standard infant formula from major brands is generally available again. But specialty formulas, the ones for babies with allergies, sensitivities, reflux issues, or specific medical needs, are still incredibly difficult to find in many parts of the country. These products are made in smaller batches by fewer manufacturers, and the supply chain for them never fully recovered. The FDA has allowed some imported formulas to fill gaps, but availability remains inconsistent. Parents of babies who need hypoallergenic or amino acid-based formulas are still dealing with frantic searches, pharmacy hopping, and online ordering with long shipping delays. I do not have a baby at home right now, but I have family members who do. I watched my cousin spend an entire Saturday calling stores and checking websites trying to find one specific formula her pediatrician recommended. She eventually found it at a pharmacy 45 minutes away. One can. That was all they had. This is not a solved problem. If you have a baby or a grandchild who needs specialty formula, talk to your pediatrician now about alternatives and backup options. If you find the formula you need, buy what the store allows. Check manufacturer websites for direct ordering, and connect with parent groups online where people share real-time stock information. No parent should have to panic about feeding their child, but the system is still fragile, and being prepared is not paranoia. It is responsibility. Item number 12, canned soup varieties. This one is subtle, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Walk down the canned soup aisle at your grocery store and really look. Count the varieties. Compare it to what you remember from a few years ago. Major soup manufacturers, including Campbell's, have been streamlining their product lines aggressively. Slower-selling flavors and specialty varieties are being cut. The shelf space is being consolidated. You might still see the big names like chicken noodle and tomato, but the variety that used to exist is shrinking fast. This is the same SKU rationalization we talked about with cereal, and it is happening across the entire center of the store. Companies are deciding that carrying 40 soup varieties is not worth it when 10 of them generate 80% of the revenue. So they cut the other 30 and focus on what sells. I used to buy a specific chunky soup variety that I loved for quick weeknight dinners. It is gone. I looked it up. Discontinued. No replacement. And when I checked online forums, I found dozens of people asking about their own favorite soups that had quietly disappeared. If you have a canned soup you rely on, check its availability now. If it is still on shelves, consider stocking up. Canned soup lasts 2 to 5 years easily. And honestly, this might be a good time to start making big batches of homemade soup and freezing them in portions. It is cheaper, healthier, and you control exactly what goes in it. The days of browsing 30 different soup options are ending. Adapt now while your favorites are still available. Item number 13, baking chocolate and cocoa powder. If you bake at all, you need to hear this. Cocoa prices have gone absolutely through the roof, and it is directly affecting what you find on store shelves. West Africa, primarily Ivory Coast and Ghana, produces about 60% of the world's cocoa. Disease, extreme weather, and aging tree plantations have crushed production in recent years. Cocoa futures hit all-time record highs in 2024 and 2025, and prices remain at levels that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. We are talking about cocoa trading at 3 to 4 times its historical average. That cost is flowing directly into every chocolate product on the shelf. Baking chocolate bars, cocoa powder, chocolate chips. All of it is more expensive, and some products are becoming harder to find as manufacturers reduce production or reformulate with less actual cocoa. I went to buy cocoa powder for holiday baking last month. The brand I normally buy was not available. The one next to it had gone from $3.49 to $6.99. I stood there staring at the price tag for a solid 10 seconds. When I researched this further, I found that some chocolate manufacturers are quietly reducing the cocoa content in their products and replacing it with fillers, oils, and flavorings. So not only are you paying more, you might be getting less actual chocolate. Stock up on cocoa powder and baking chocolate now if you bake regularly. These items last a very long time when stored properly. Cocoa powder can last 2 to 3 years in a sealed container. And pay attention to ingredient labels. If a product that used to say made with real cocoa now says chocolate flavored, that is a downgrade you are paying more for. Protect your pantry and protect your recipes. Item number 14, frozen fruit. Frozen fruit has been one of the best-kept secrets in the grocery store for years. It is often more nutritious than fresh because it is frozen at peak ripeness. It is convenient, it is versatile, and it is getting harder to find at the prices we are used to. Several factors are converging. Labor costs for fruit harvesting have increased significantly. Water restrictions in key growing regions like California, Chile, and parts of Mexico are reducing yields. Shipping and cold storage costs remain elevated. And demand for frozen fruit has surged as more people make smoothies, use it in baking, and rely on it as a healthier snack option. I have noticed that the frozen fruit section at my store has gotten noticeably smaller. Bags that used to be 16 ounces are now 12 ounces at the same price, which is classic shrinkflation. Some organic varieties have disappeared entirely, and the prices on what remains have climbed steadily. When I compared Walmart's current frozen fruit prices to what I paid last summer, the average increase was about 15%. At Costco, the bulk bags are still a decent value, but even those have gone up. My recommendation is to buy frozen fruit in bulk when you find it on sale. It keeps for months in the freezer. If you have the space, consider buying fresh fruit in season and freezing it yourself. Berries, mango chunks, and banana slices all freeze beautifully on a sheet pan and then transfer to freezer bags. It is cheaper, and you know exactly what you are getting. Frozen fruit is a staple that deserves a permanent spot in your freezer. Secure your supply while it is still accessible. Item number 15. Rice. I saved this one for last because it affects more households than almost anything else on this list. Rice is a global staple. Billions of people depend on it, and the supply picture is concerning. India, which is the world's largest rice exporter, implemented export restrictions on certain types of rice starting in 2023. Those restrictions have been adjusted multiple times since then, but the uncertainty alone has disrupted global trade flows and driven up prices. Climate events, including floods in key rice-growing regions of Asia and drought in others, have reduced harvests. Global rice stocks have been drawn down to their lowest levels in years. In the United States, domestic rice production has also faced challenges. Acreage in states like Arkansas, Louisiana, and California has fluctuated due to water availability and farmers switching to more profitable crops. I went to my local Asian grocery store last month, which usually has the best prices and selection for rice. Several varieties were out of stock. The ones that were available had price increases of 20 to 30% compared to a year ago. At my regular supermarket, the rice section looked normal at first glance, but when I checked the weights and prices, the per-pound cost had jumped significantly. Rice stores extremely well. White rice, properly sealed in a cool, dry place, can last 20 to 30 years. Brown rice has a shorter shelf life of about 6 months in the pantry, but it freezes well. If you eat rice regularly, buying a 25 or 50-pound bag from Costco, Sam's Club, or a restaurant supply store is one of the smartest investments you can make for your pantry right now. This is not about panic. This is about math. The price is going up. The supply is uncertain. Buying now at today's price is just common sense. Now let me tie all of this together for you. Look at what we just covered. Cooking oils, canned goods, staple grains, dairy products, condiments, baby essentials, baking ingredients, frozen foods. These are not luxury items. These are the foundations of everyday meals for everyday families, and every single one of them is under pressure from some combination of climate disruption, supply chain concentration, corporate cost-cutting, and global instability. The pattern is clear. The grocery store you walk into today will not look the same a year from now. Prices will be higher, selection will be thinner, and the items you take for granted will become harder to find. But here is the good news. You are watching this right now. You are informed. You are ahead of the curve. Most people will not notice these changes until they are standing in an aisle staring at an empty shelf wondering what happened. You already know what happened, and you already know what to do about it. Build your pantry strategically. Buy shelf-stable items when they are available and affordable. Learn to store food properly. Diversify your go-to ingredients so you are not dependent on any single product. And pay attention. Keep watching. Keep learning. The people who stay informed are the people who stay prepared. If this video helped you see something you did not see before, hit that like button. It helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you have not already, because I am going to keep bringing you this kind of information every single week. I have another video coming soon about products that are quietly shrinking in size while the price stays the same, and what I found is going to make you rethink your entire shopping list. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. Take care of your family. Take care of your budget. And I will see you in the next one.